Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This channel is for educational purposes, and today is the 247th video that we've done on the reciprocal system of theory, various aspects of the reciprocal system. This was a system of theory, like a theory of everything, that was first devised by Dewey B. Larson back in the 20th century. Had his first epiphanies about the system back in about 1930. Painstakingly developed the ideas over the course of about 20-25 years through a process of induction, and eventually came out with his two fundamental postulates in the late 1950s. And the basic idea of the postulates is that we live in a universe of motion, and motion is the relationship between space and time. Space and time both have their coordinate aspects. They come in 3 or more dimensions. They both have their scalar clock aspects, meaning that they both are progressing, moving for time, moving forward. The clock is always getting later and later. For space, everything is getting farther and farther apart. And they both have their discrete unit aspect, meaning that they come in only discrete units. They come in chunks. And you either have one chunk of something or you have nothing. Or you have 2 chunks, or you just have one. There's no, 3/10 of a chunk, or fraction of a chunk, or decimal of a chunk. There's either one or none. And then also the universe is commutative. All its magnitudes are absolute, and its geometry is Euclidean. Those are basically the 2 fundamental postulates, and then he took those 2 and ran with them and went through a deductive process of if this then that, and derived an entire theoretical universe from those 2 postulates. And that resulted in him writing a number of different books on things like physics and chemistry and astronomy, and also economics and metaphysics, including psychology and religion and philosophy. And got a little bit of a following. They had a little bit of a journal going called Reciprocity that went on for, I don't know, 20 or more years, I think. And so he had a little bit of a following, not large, but significant. And then he died back in 1990 while he was working on mostly stuff having to do with metaphysics. His last book came out after he died, called Beyond Space and Time, having to do with metaphysics. And then a few of his followers, kept it going, and did some revising of some of Larson's ideas. Again, the theory itself, as Larson would say, is correct. But whether he applied the theory correctly is the question, and that was subject to some revision by some of the different people. Just like just about everything else, there are the orthodox and there are the revisionists. Some people thought that Larson didn't and couldn't make any mistakes, and they kept on exactly the way he was in the trajectory that he was headed. Other people tried to revise him. I tend to gravitate toward those people that revised him, but they also knew his theory backwards and forwards, or at least, as his theory is very difficult to grasp. mainly because you have to unlearn a lot of stuff that you already had learned. Um, but people who really understood his theory and still revised it, because there were some people who were willing to revise his theory without really even knowing what it was. So, and then there were the orthodox, that said he didn't make any mistakes. So, it's a mixed bag, but we are looking at one of his primary revisers today, Dr. Bruce Perrett, who also passed away back in 2020. Larson passed away in 1990. And Dr. Perrett wrote a number of articles under the pen name of Daniel Phoenix III, called the Daniel Papers. And they are somewhat speculative, and they mix a lot of Larson's concepts with other concepts, especially esoteric, mystical, and I would say ancient concepts. And he writes about all kinds of other subjects, such as archaeoastronomy and geochronology, geophysics in general. This particular article is part of his part 3 of his 4-part anthropology series on the hidden history of Homo sapiens. And this article is called, wait for it, it is called Homo sapiens ethicus, life, death, reincarnation, and ascension. And he went through basically what he talks about 3 different forms of bioenergy, that the ancients, like the ancient Chinese, referred to them as Jing, Qi, and Shen. And the ancient Indians would call them Fohat and Prana and Kundalini. And I'm sure there are other terms for these things. But for Perrett, they correspond to Larson's 3 speed ranges. And these different speed ranges, for Larson, as I mentioned, the time and space both are quantized, meaning that they come in chunks only. And if you have one chunk of space in one chunk of time, that is the speed of light. So, the speed of light is space over time. The speed is space over time. The bike is moving 20 miles per hour. 20 miles of space in 1 hour of time. One chunk of space in one chunk of time is the speed of light. That represents a boundary in the universe, and one side of that boundary is everything that's moving slower than the speed of light, and Larson calls that the material sector, and then the other side is everything that's moving faster than the speed of light. Larson calls that the cosmic sector. And so that sets up a boundary. There's also another boundary that is more than twice the speed of light. And so that's really three separate speed ranges: 1 minus x, 2 minus x, and 3 minus x. And so Perrett is basically comparing Jing and Qi and Shen to those 3. And so Jing represents the low speed range, 1 minus x. So that's where he's at right now, and that's where we're going to start here. Jing is analogous to Larson's low speed range, 1 minus x. Now, when Perrett pronounces that, he says 1 2x. It's 1 dash x. I think it's 1 minus x. But be that as it may, the low speed range 1 minus x being a binding energy within and between cells. Jing is acquired through consumption of food. Other living cells that emit Jing as they are broken down for use in the body. The better quality the food, such as organic, the more abundant the Jing is. Very poor food may have so little Jing that the body itself must supply a portion of it to aid in digestion. Jing is also provided during conception, where the new life is provided with a quantity of congenital Jing from the parents to initialize the life system for independent operation. When the baby is in the womb, it is dependent upon the activities of the mother to do the initial charge of these bioenergy batteries, as those jumper cables are only disconnected upon the severing of the umbilical cord at birth. After birth, natural processes work to acquire additional Jing from outside sources, acquired Jing. Jing is expended with day-to-day activities and consumed quickly in stressful and fearful situations, these days known as everyday life. When the total quantity of Jing is expended at a biological organism level, the natural processes of dying is initiated. A natural process of dying is initiated. If the organism does not have sufficient qi to engage the reincarnation process, now qi is the 2 minus x form of bioenergy. So he's kind of just getting ahead of himself a little here. I mean, he did explain it earlier. If the organism does not have sufficient qi to engage the reincarnation process, the result is death, a demotion. For most of the lower forms of life that are still bound to a collective anima, soul, this demotion is a return to the inanimate chemical realm. Higher forms of life, having more complexity, get demoted to a level of complexity that is maintainable with their remaining bioenergy level. Just looking at the footnotes here. Okay. Now, this section is for the 2 minus x, qi, life energy. Jing is the low-speed energy that keeps cells on either the material or cosmic side functioning. Qi is the next step up, the intermediate speed energy 2 minus x that keeps the material and cosmic aggregates together and communicating. Because this stable matter-antimatter bond is what defines life, qi is considered life energy. Qi can be manufactured from Jing or obtained from the environment. Because Jing is far more abundant and very easily obtained from a good meal, qi is normally manufactured from Jing through the Jia, or I don't know how to pronounce it, XIA, Jia Dantian, then sent for storage in the Zong Dantian. And just remember, the Dantians are the 3 kind of batteries that we have in our body that contain the forms of Jing, forms of bioenergy. Environmental qi is actually quite abundant in natural areas, and many people can sense this with a good feeling when out hiking or camping. The primary source is good, clean air, which is why qi is associated with breath, and why Practices to encourage and store qi concern breathing exercises, such as pranayama, prana being the correspondent to qi. Those that practice these exercises in remote areas often notice that it is far more effective when there are thunderstorms in the area. There is a reason for this. The intense dielectric field produced by a thunderstorm alters the form of water vapor slightly, converting inanimate water into living water, a direct source of life units having a structure easily converted to qi. Unfortunately, few of these places exist in civilized countries that have been overrun by electromagnetism, as this form of energy prevents environmental qi from forming in any abundance. Okay, now he's talking about Shen, spirit energy. Qi can be converted to Shen as an act of will. Shen is not normally acquired from the environment. It is only obtained as a deliberate, conscious act. However, the process of reincarnation will provide a quantity of Shen to the newborn, as well as some Shen obtained from the parents. When a life form obtains sufficient Shen, it activates the spirit complex, the intelligence, and develops a degree of ethics, as Larson describes in his level 3 ethical approach in his book Beyond Space and Time. Shen can be considered intellectual or creative energy, depending on whether the material corpus or the cosmic anima is dominant in the organism. Those on a typical alchemical path are trying to balance the masculine and feminine aspects within, will tend to exhibit both forms of Shen, being intellectually creative, such as a composer, and creatively intellectual, such as an inventor. With the exception of the Gaia hypothesis, nature has not yet developed sufficiently to be an environmental source of Shen, so any external accumulation is done from creative and intellectual pursuits involving others of similar mind and spirit, a process analogous to resonance amplification. When Jing runs out and there is sufficient Shen, another option for death opens up, that which is commonly called ascension, a process to exit the cycle of life, death, and reincarnation by moving to a different realm. If one does not have sufficient Shen to ascend, it most likely will have sufficient qi to reincarnate and follow that route to try again. And here he's quoting Oma Desala from Stargate, SG-1. When the mind is enlightened, the spirit is freed. The body matters not. Okay, and this next section is called Yin Yang equals time space. Another concept that is used from the Chinese is that of yin yang, the concept of inseparable opposites that Larson calls motion. Yin is the involutive concept, feminine, polar, curved, full or cold, whereas yang is the evolutive concept, masculine, linear, straight, empty, or hot. Within the material sector context of the reciprocal system used in this analysis, time is yin and space is yang. Yeah, well, I'm not sure about that, but continue on. Yin yang also represents a way to represent the concept of simple harmonic motion, where a yin inside simple harmonic motion is a vibration. And a yang outside simple harmonic motion is an oscillation. Vibration, when applied to a rotation, such as an atomic system, creates the concept of a charge. A charge is a rotational vibration in the reciprocal system that is the source of electric, magnetic, and gravitational charges. In general, there's 4 different kinds of motion in the reciprocal system, which is obviously important because the reciprocal system states that the universe is made out of motion. There is your translational motion. There is your vibrational motion. Then there is your rotational motion. And then there is your rotational vibration. And the rotational vibration corresponds to the charge, electric charge, magnetic charge. And then when he's talking about a simple harmonic motion, that creates a dispute in the reciprocal system, because Larson believed that simple harmonic motion was a combination of a translational motion and a vibrational motion, but the vibrational motion is perpendicular to the translational motion. So it's like this. And so the combination of those 2 motions, the translational motion and the vibrational motion, is a simple harmonic motion, a wave. Now, Perret and Dr. KVK Nehru, the 2 primary revisers of Larson's system, believe that the simple harmonic motion is the result of a birotation. The interference of 2 counter-rotating systems also creates a simple harmonic motion, which was, I believe, demonstrated by Leonhard Euler, the mathematician back in the 18th century. And I think it's called the epsilon function. And so they believe that the photon and the simple harmonic motion in general is the result of a birotation, whereas Larson thought it was a translation and a vibration normal to each other, or 90 degrees apart. Anyway, we will. I think we'll leave it there, and we'll go back and start this section again, where he starts to talk about the concept of charge. The important thing just to remember here is that a charge is a rotational vibration. And okay, we'll leave it there, and have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.